Welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. Join Marti Dumas and Elena Page on their quest to help children's and middle grade authors find the right audience and sell more books.
I'm Elena Page, one of your hosts, and today I have a very special guest. I had to beg her. No, I didn't really have to beg her, but I do have to make it sound a little dramatic. I have my other co-host, Marti Dumas. I've got her to agree to be interviewed. So she's my special guest.
So I'm going to climb right Marti. Now and say that this is under duress.
Love it.
I'm doing this under duress. Okay, continue.
You're doing this under duress. Yeah, I did. I had to pay her off, just so you know. I'm only kidding. Okay, so a little introduction, even though you know Marti well, because you listen to her every second week. But Marti Dumas is a native New Orleanian. Did I get it right, Marti? New Orleanian?
No, close. Good enough.
He's a native New Orleanian. I think I did.
There you go.
Got it. With a passion for storytelling. She began her indie publishing journey in February 2015 and so far has authored her first book, Jailer and the Wolves. She is the superstar author of the series Jaden Toussaint, The Greatest, which consists of 5 books. Am I right? 5? So episode 1, The Quest for Screen Time. Episode 2, The Ludek Invasion. Episode 3, Muffin Wars. Episode 4, Attack of the Swamp Thing. And number 5, Mission Star Power. Recently wrote and launched Jupiter Storm and also has a couple of other books, The Snow Dragon and The Little Human, which I'm going to ask her all about today. Welcome to your show, Marti Dumas. How was that?
Thank you, Elena. I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh, good. How does it feel? You get to be questioned today. Isn't that awesome?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. The jury's out. All right. Where do I want to start? Well, you know, what prompted me to ask you to be interviewed is that, you know, for me, you're probably one of the, if not the most humble author I've ever met. So, you know, all these other authors are out there going, me. And you're like, oh, nah, you know, I haven't. It's all good. But, you know, behind the scenes, you're like this powerhouse. You know, like you know things. That's why you ask good questions of all of our interviewees, or what are they called? Interviewees. You ask them good questions. So what I want to know is, I'm going to go straight for it, Marti. Like, tell me your second book, the Jaden Toussaint series and the first in that series. First of all, it's got heaps of reviews. Second of all, it does get very good sales that other authors would drool over. It is in bookstores. It's out there in the world. What did you do to make that happen?
Okay. So that's like, we can just start off with a small one, right? Like that's
the small one. Yeah.
That's a little thing. Okay.
Yeah,
so the Jaden Toussaint, The Greatest series, the main character is modeled on my son, and really intentionally, not just because it's fun for kids to have themselves in books, but because I was really looking for stuff for him that really reflected his experience in the world, and that kind of stuff wasn't really out there. But not just that reflected his experience, but that would suit his taste and reflected his experience. Like, so it was a combination thing. So what happens is that I wrote Jayla and the Wolves. I think everybody probably already knows this story, but I wrote Jayla and the Wolves as a present for my daughter when she was 6. It was supposed to be a Christmas gift, but it did not. The blurb copy that I had printed did not arrive in time. And so she got it a few days after Christmas. I think that I called it like a New Year's or Kwanzaa gift or some such. And like that copy kind of got passed around, and I was cool with it. Like, it was kind of serving its purpose. Then my little one, well, he doesn't say that anymore, but he used to say all the time that he doesn't like to read. And although he's like I'm like literally a literacy, like that's my thing. I'm a literacy teacher. Like that's a thing that I do. So then he can read. Like I know the mechanics of like that he's got like the mechanics thing down, but I also know that it takes a really long time sometimes to find the thing that you love. Like it's the both together, right? Like you have to have the mechanics, but also you have to realize that this is something that makes you feel good. Like people move toward the things that make them feel good, and away from the things that make them feel like stupid or inadequate or whatever, right? So he just hadn't found the thing that he absolutely loves, but he did like audiobooks. And so he asked me if there was an audiobook of Jayla and the Wolves. Also of note is that I do narrate audiobooks. And he knows this. And so he was really asking me if, and I was like, okay, I could do this. It would easiest to get it on his Kindle would be if I actually narrated it and just published it through ACX. It's way easier because like it streams just like anything else. It would be in his audiobook library like everything else, blah blah blah. So I did that and I made like a terrible cover that my daughter loved. It was like a version of like she absolutely loved it. I made this like horrible cover that I made myself, and I realized that you had to have an ebook up in order to be able to, like on ACX, if you don't have, you could have a print version, but if you don't have a version for sale on Amazon, then you can't claim it on ACX and like make the audiobook, right? So I put a version of it on, of Jayla and the Wolves on Amazon, so that I could claim it on ACX and put the audiobook up. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten your question. I'm going to get back around. I asked a few friends of mine if they would read the book to make sure, because it was, I wasn't going to tell anybody it was out there, but since it was kind of out there, I wanted to make sure it didn't have like horrendous typos in it and stuff like that, like just make sure. Like, so I used the Amazon free days to set the book to free for a few, like for whatever, however many days you get, right? 5, I think, for 5 days, and then ask some friends of mine to like download it and make sure, check or whatever, and they did. But what happened was that I honestly now, at the time, it felt like a magical mystery, but now I realize what probably happened is that some free book bot found that book in the free days, which at the time I was like, magically, there were so many downloads of the book, and I didn't know.
That's fantastic.
But like now I know probably what happened. So there were a bunch of downloads, which was horrifying because like there were probably errors and all kinds of stuff in that version. But there ended up being a bunch of downloads of the book in that time period, and then the audiobook was up. It was fine, but I was telling a friend of mine about that, and he was saying that he was like, well, you should do more, and I was like, haha, like so funny. And he was like, no, you should do more. He's like, but and I was like, why? I was like that story, I love that story, by the way, but that story had like a particular purpose, and it had already served its purpose. Like it was meant to be like a love letter, really. Like it was between me and my daughter. Like it had done its job, like we had already had our thing. And he was like, well, he's like, there's so many boys out there that don't have a thing. Like you should consider, like you should do the same thing. Like, and he's like, and then he throws my son in there, of course. He's like,
exactly.
He's like, and your son doesn't have a book, like whatever. And I was like, my daughter is all about words. My son is a person who is going to need words and images. Like it just is who he is. And I was like, and that I can't draw, so that's not happening. So here's what happened that is totally unfair and possibly not replicable, but maybe replicable. I don't know. What happens is that he went to a couple of people that he knew, and they put together some money and gave it to me. On like, essentially they started a tiny publishing company so that I would do the books for boys.
Wow.
So we agreed, and I was like, well, that's cool, because then if I have a little leeway, I could do this, like I could find illustrate, let me see what I can do with it or whatever. And so I knew exactly who the audience was. It was my son, right? And I also figured that there were tons of other kids out there who were just like him. And honestly, like, I get emails like 3 or 4 a week with parents sending me either a full-on picture of their son being like, you clearly used my son as a model for this book. Here he is, right? Or like just a message saying like something similar, like, so I wasn't wrong. Like, that turns out to be true. So the answer to the question about how it ended up being like getting out there really is that there were people who gave me money, right? And structure.
Hey,
and
get money.
get money, right? And structure. And then also, this actually is in light of some of the interviews that we've had recently that I've really come to like think about this. So maybe I should put it in our goal setting show instead. But it really means a lot to have someone tell you that they believe in you. So having people who believed in me meant that not just that I maybe was good enough to be able to do it, but also that like I couldn't not do it because I had already said that I was going to do it. And also like it really made me afraid in both good and bad ways that if I didn't do it, that I would be letting them down, and that they would be, I wouldn't be able to give them their money back, or I would have to dip into my family's money in order to be able to give them their money back. And I didn't want to do that either. And so then there was a lot of pressure, but sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, so the motivation was like from the beginning wasn't just, oh, I'm just going to write this. Like it's interesting because even as you were talking, you know, like I've read most of your books and they're all terrific, you know. So when I sort of stand back and think, well, Jayla was sort of, they were both accidental books to some extent, sort of, if you know what I mean. Not accidental, it's probably the wrong word. They were like, you know, tributes to your children. And yet what made Jayla not be as successful as Jaden has become? Like, is it just where you put your emphasis, or what do you think?
So there are a few things that I think about that, and all of them are theories. I can't exactly tell you, right? So one thing is that the Jaden Toussaint books are written to a particular market. And I know who it is. It's me, right? But just not me, right? So then that makes it easier for me to know who to tell about the book. And other people hear about it, other people get excited about it, but I know who to tell in the first place. So then that is super helpful. The next thing is that they're not exactly rapid release in the Michael Anderle sense of rapid release, but for children's books they kind of have been. So the first Jaden Toussaint book, honestly, I need to look. I think it's June 2015. If you want to look that up, maybe the end of June 2015. And so then it's not been 3 years yet, but there's already 5 of those books that are out. So for the TriPub world, that's pretty quick for them, and it does kind of keep them up in the algorithms for a little longer or whatever. So having multiples of those helps. I never have done any so like they wanted to publish essentially what became the Jaden Toussaint books they didn't have a name when we decided, but they wanted to publish those, but like retroactively, like we went back in and took down the old copies of Jayla and the Wolves, and got them properly edited, and got like covers, like nice covers for them and all that kind of stuff or whatever. So like they were published by the publishing company retroactively. But like that wasn't the focus, but also not having more than one of them. Like that book is not a series. So then not having more than one of them, I haven't pushed for that book to be pushed at all. So like everything that's on that has been essentially organic traffic or people who have read all of the Jade and Toussaint books and decided that they just like me, which is cool. Thank you for people who like me. And then went back and read she's got another one. Like went back and read Jayla and the Wolves. So part of the reason, so at first my little publishing group, which I'm now like I'm actually a part owner of at this time. So it didn't exactly start out that way, but then when the first book earned out, like when it got back the money and started turning a profit, then my family and I had to decide whether we were gonna have the money just come in as royalties or have it go into sort of buy into and grow the business. And we as a family really believe in the mission of the business, like really believe in the mission of the business. And so then we decided to help it grow and buy in. So nobody else wanted to do, nobody else wanted to do more books like Jayla and the Wolves. And I was actually prepared to start shopping Jupiter Storm out, right? To start to see if there was somebody else who wanted to do it. It's a little niche. I don't think that it works well as like a totally indie affair. Like if I just did it under my own name and like made a little, I don't know, I guess maybe I could have made another publishing company, but this one is quite enough work on its own. So anyway, I was prepared to shop it out, but I think that that what changed my partner's minds is that we do have Jayla and the Wolves. Jupiter Storm is for the same kind of audience. We've never put any effort into growing that audience, but we have another thing. And if we put some effort into growing, like finding and growing the audience, like that is actually what I love to write the most. I love the Jade and Toussaint books, but like I love writing fantasy. And so it would, like I would be happier if I were able to have some of those things go through. And I'm not good at rejection. Like I'm really, really not good at rejection. So I've like literally never sent a query letter to anyone ever. I've never I don't know. I don't even know exactly what it is that you do. I think query is it, right? Or like, oh, I know, like gone and tried to like corner agents at writers festivals or whatever people do or whatever. Yeah. Like I've never done any of those things, mainly because I feel like if the person wants what you have, then they will tell you, which is, I know, false in so many ways, because like people demand things all the time. Or for me, it comes across that way, but for others, it's just like, oh, they just asked, right? So, but I don't like the rejection. So I have never done any of those things. And I would rather have what I'm doing help to grow this than not. Now, with that said, I'm also working on a manuscript right now that I think is outside of the purview of this thing. So eventually I'm gonna have to do something, or it'll just be one of the many books that sits on a flash drive of mine. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so anyway, so I think that's part of it. So I can't give you a full answer because we haven't done enough yet. So like Jupiter literally just came out a few days ago. So I'll let you know.
And So tell me the name of your little press.
It's Plum Street Press.
What a beautiful name. I did know that, but I keep forgetting. I've got to just think of plums and then I'll never forget. That's a gorgeous name.
It's actually, we like Piggy, our podcast. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have like a.
Oh, so it's,
YouTube
of course.
thing. So our podcast gets YouTubed through
Plum Street Press. Here we are.
Street Press. So
yeah, that's perfect.
You'll probably look on some corner of the screen and see it.
So I'm gonna dive off in a few different directions, and then I'll come back. But just while I've got them in my brain. So with Plum Street Press, you do have to get, like, everybody who's part owner of that to agree on the book that you're publishing. So it's feasible, as you say, that maybe some of your future books may not be published through them if everybody doesn't agree to invest the money to make that the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. That's it's interesting. Good to know. That's what I mean.
Did I lose some indie points like that?
Yeah. My brain's just working in the background, and it's always a little slow, on a Tuesday morning for me anyway. So I want to come back for a minute to, this is what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong. So Jaden, okay, number one, money, right? Because the money to do it, and I want to say this, to do it right, because it's done very professionally. Like, I would never pick it up and think, oh, this is an indie author. Probably wouldn't think that. So obviously the Plum Street Press has a certain level of quality, and they put the money behind that to make sure the books. Second, if I'm right, know your target market. So you did have a strong element of, we know exactly who that reader is. It was interesting for me, like that, like you made, and I hope I say this right, but is this correct, that Plum Street Press produces books for coloured children, yeah, so that they feel like they're part of the story, or books are written for them, not just all these annoying white kids everywhere. I'm white, so I can say that.
Right. So Plum Street Press has definitely has a diversity mission, and it's to make sure that all children can see themselves in books. And so then all the books that Plum Street Press publishes feature protagonists of color, where race has nothing to do with the story. And so then the stories are very universal, and I think that they're really important for everyone to read. And actually, I was on my friends over at the Lou and Bean podcast, Lou and Bean Reads. That's a great podcast. It's a family podcast about books. And so the two little girls, codenamed Lou and Bean, read stories with their mom, and then they get some of their favorite authors to come on and talk with them, and they ask them, behind the scenes questions about the books, which is really great. But they're a white family, and they stumbled across the Jade Toussaint books, and the little girls really liked it. And at the end of our conversation, their mom was like, I didn't think about this when we picked it up, but she's like, I think about it now, how important it is also for kids who identify as white to see their friends in books. Like, it is so that all children can see themselves in books, but being able to see your friends, stories are how humans communicate, and stories humanize us. So without being if the only kinds of stories that you hear about a group of people is one kind, you're gonna think that that's like a universe, that just is. And if they feel less than human in those stories, then that creates that perception. But that's a thing for everyone. That's not just a thing for any one particular group. That's for everyone. So
that's a fabulous point. That's awesome. I totally agree with that. I think it's probably that thing of authors write what they know or about themselves on some level, or I don't know, I'm really stupid at this sort of stuff, but in history, the authors were the people that were picked out as a selected few, they were probably mostly white. Again, I don't know, I'm making that as a just blatant statement. But
well, it is. And yeah, so like it's not, I mean, it is a kind of a blanket statement. And so then it's obviously going to have a ton of exceptions like all blanket statements do, but like,
yeah,
it doesn't mean that it's not also partially true. Right. So, and not intentionally, like for me, like, it's important for me to say aloud that I don't think that these things happen always with intention or like with like kind of a dark heart.
I agree. Yeah.
But it doesn't stop that it's happening, right? And it
Yeah.
sort of ends up being self-perpetuating. So then, for example, like think about in how many stories there are about like coming of age stories about a girl coming of age in the city or a girl moving from the country to the city to come of age. And then think about the people who are reading and screening books to find the ones that like resonate with them and bring to the next level. Like there's a correlation there, and it's not intentional. I don't think, but it ends up accidentally like perpetuating itself over time. So,
Yeah. So coming back to my original question, I suppose what I was trying to ask was, a bit like when we interviewed Crystal Swain Bates, that was her target audience is like in her mind, and it's great, is, that kids of color, as you say, can identify themselves in stories. And I think it's magnificent. It's why they've done so well. But what I'm hearing with you is that even though that's one level of your target market, you've gone down another level of your target market. Like, in other words, it isn't enough. You haven't just gone, let's write books for, kids, colored kids, and for other kids to, read about colored kids. You've actually, like, what's the distinction, as you made earlier, between, say, Jayla and the Wolves readers and Jaden Toussaint readers? Like you've gone to another level with your target market.
So, Jaden Toussaint, like people who are looking for Jaden Toussaint are looking for books for their reluctant readers. They're looking for books that make their reluctant readers feel successful. And they're looking for books that make smart cool. So the books are really super science heavy, but it's kind of swag. Science is kind of swag in the books, but it's natural, right? Like it just is. It's not pointed out as an add-on or said like in an unnecessarily blatant way. It just is the way that he is and the way that the story operates. And so then it works better, I think, in that sense of like being able to deliver that smartest cool message. And then so then there are parents who are looking for those things and teachers who are looking for those things. And I think that those are the kinds of things that people are looking for. And then the fact that the protagonist is African American and has brown skin is like a super bonus.
Yeah.
It's like extra score. And actually it has kind of helped us because obviously we don't really know what we're doing as a collective. Like, one of us was in construction, this was not any of our primary, none of us were already publishers, but having a mission, like we had to learn things and we've done a lot of things wrong, like a lot of things wrong. But I think that like we've had a lot of librarians write to us and say things like, you weren't in the Permabound catalog, which is an error. So I did insert 15-step process to get you in the Permabound catalog so that I could order your books. You're welcome.
Oh, whoa. Wow.
So like, that's awesome, right? So like, I don't know that a librarian would have done that just for a book that has a brown kid on the cover.
I agree.
I don't know that a librarian would have done that just for a book that was cute. that they came across,
Yeah.
right? I think that it's like a combination of
right.
of all of those things together that made it like, okay, we want to help you. So, and we can see that you don't quite have your stuff together, because how are you publishing books for kids and you don't have them in the permabound catalog? My bad. We didn't know, but now we do. um, but um, but it made them like be like, okay, we will help you. We'll help to elevate this because it needs like it needs a bigger audience. So that's cool, and that is super. That's like, because again, we don't know what we're doing. So anything that has happened because other people are awesome and have really been like, okay, we see you trying. Let's help you fix it.
Yeah, but I think it's because you nailed the target market, like you wrote it. I mean, I don't know if Chris Fox was here, would he say you wrote that to market? Like to some extent it is kind of, for me, as I hear you, that you really, like, even that you made smart cool, like even that level of your thinking, it's amazing. Like, I think that's you met a need out there, just like a non-fiction author would meet a need. You actually met a need on a kind of non-fiction level, if that makes sense. So it's more than just a fabulous story. Maybe Harry Potter did the same on some level. I don't know. Like, maybe on some level we really did all want to feel that we could live in a magical universe, but one that was almost like real to us, hadn't been created yet. Because, like The Hobbit, you did have to go off to some imaginary place, whereas like,
yeah, you just gotta get to London, man.
Yeah. Harry made, like magic believable to us in our everyday, and to a large extent, I mean, I've read Jaden Stomp books. Jaden does make smart, cool, like he does that, like, it's, and I agree. I think no matter what color child reads them, my kids love them, like they're, in some ways, I think the fact that he's coloured pulled it off, more. Does that make sense? Because, I don't know, in Australia, again, I'm making one of my big generalizations. We do see, American coloured kids as smart and cool. So, for us, it was like, yeah, if Jaden was some white kid, we would not believe it, like, whereas he's got that sass, like that, makes him like lovable to us, and probably I bet your sales in Australia and other countries probably reflect that. Do they?
We do. We are starting to. So again, we're learning, right, and growing and learning at the same time. So we do sell books in Australia, and the first people who signed on to I know this. Partly because the first people, and I remember their names, but I'm not going to call them out on the thing, who signed up for our early review teams for Jade and Toussaint, we would like do drawings for prizes or send prizes for people, like when they or send them copies of the book, like hard copies of the book when they join the review team. And like the first 3 times that we did that, the person who won was from Australia. No joke.
Oh, there you go.
Which was great, except like it sticks to mind because when you like have to mail and the postage is $60 or whatever, you're like, wow, I love you guys.
Oh no, that's painful. Oh my goodness.
And actually every single one of them, to a person, was like, oh, you probably didn't realize that I was in Australia. Don't worry, pick somebody else, blah, blah, blah. It's like, of course I'm going to send, like, of course we're going to send it to you. Like, that's what we said. Like, why would we not do what we said? But, which was, very kind, but, yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going back to my ABC or 1, 2, 3. So recap: the money, good book. Target market, you've got this fabulous book on your hands. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Then what did you do? What did you do next?
Okay. So we try to get it into the hands of readers. So a couple of us, like, so one of my partners, Jeff, is really into like old school marketing. Like, he's like we're gonna get you on this radio show, girl, and we're gonna do, like it's like all this kinds of stuff, or whatever. And he totally did. Like he definitely like booked me on like some like local and regional radio shows and like some podcasts and stuff like that. None of those really moved copies, but it's good to have. It was good practice, and it was good to have out there, I think, because again, that multiple touches thing. Like if you have the first time you've heard of something, unless it's truly, truly, truly meeting your immediate need, you're probably not just going to click buy on the thing. Like it takes a little softening, right? Or just to remember it so that when it does become a pressing need, you're like, oh, right, that thing. I know the thing that I need to buy now that I have the need. So I think that all of that kind of adds into it. So I'm like, it's fine that it didn't result in direct sales, and neither did most of the things that we did in the beginning. So we did. I said we had a review team, and so we put together budgets to be able to send out 150 copies, which for us was kind of big because it had not made any money yet, and like we had not thought about like things like around the world postage, and also like the actual result like percentage based on the number of books that you send out, and also like that we were honestly operating like maybe we were not gonna make any money back, right? Which is a wrong mindset. I would not advise that for anyone to do. If anything, I would say approach it like a hobby, like, right? Like how many times do you go to the movies or whatever? Like if you get joy out of the thing, spend the money on your joy and just go with it, right? But so we were being a little bit, so like putting together the 150 review copies was kind of, and then on top of it, we had done like a very small print run the first time, and there was a half page missing. Which was hilarious because small print runs are way more expensive than large ones in a sense. And so then we had to do that again. We sent them out, and I honestly don't think that very much like fast traction happened from that. We got a few people, like maybe like a literal few, like maybe 3 or 4 people who left reviews for that book. And then I was like, okay, so like, what do we do next? So then, like I said, there were like radio shows and podcasts and that kind of stuff. And then I was like, we did have a launch event at my like favorite local bookstore. They would have done it anyway, but B, they had me come and sign books for Jayla and the Wolves after it accidentally like hit a bunch of the lists. So they had me come and sign, and people actually came because I'm from here. And so then they sold a lot of books on that day. And so then they offered to do another thing. And also they're nice. They would have done it anyway, because honestly, they do multiple events for authors where they sold like 3 books on that day. So then but it didn't hurt, I'm sure. But then they did an event we did a Jane Toussaint launch event there, which was also good. Pictures are good. Pictures of kids with books are good. And I don't know, we maybe sold like 100 copies of the book there, which is obviously, it's good for a signing at a small thing for an unknown author, but not like that wasn't paying back the bills, right? Like that wasn't putting a dent in what we had actually put out. So but the thing that actually turned, so like all that is just like regular and normal, but the thing that actually turned the corner is a couple, like, so I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you some things that ended up happening around the same time. So one of the things that happened is that bookstore stocked the book. Like they just stocked it, and they sold it. So it was starting to sell from that bookstore. And then we started doing Facebook advertisements for the first book, where we promised that if you joined our list, we would give you the second book for free when it came out. Which is like, you know, it was like, we're listening to all those marketing things where they're like, you give a thing, give a short story, give like a, it's like, we were like giving the promise
Oh gosh.
of a future thing that didn't actually exist yet. And so, right. And so, and started working on the second book. So then when the second book was ready to go, we had maybe, I don't remember now, I'd have to look back and see, but it was not a lot of reviews. We had maybe like 30, 35 reviews on, like 30 or 35 reviews on the first book.
Okay.
By then, and those had just kind of come in very slowly. Maybe they were some of the people who we'd sent print copies to, who knows, right? At that time, the book was paid. The first book was paid in ebook form. And then we applied for and got a BookBub feature deal for the first book to time with
we always get BookBub always comes up somehow, doesn't it?
BookBub always comes up somehow as a free feature deal. And to roughly coincide with the release of the second book. And I thought that was going to make the day. I was so excited. I was like, this is it. Like, we're going to do it. It's going to all like, it's going to like totally blow up. And it totally didn't. We had like 16,000 downloads of that book, the free book, 16,000 downloads. And over the first few days, there were maybe 3 signups in the back of the book. From the back of the book.
Wow. And
I was like, well, this bites. Like, this is not what I was promised. I was like, that's a lot of downloads to have like very little like follow-on results. And the books are not, I mean, they're not picture books, but they don't take weeks to read, even with for reluctant readers. So like I at that point was like, that maybe it was never going to work. And then I asked myself a question that I think is important. And I still ask myself this question, which is, if this doesn't work, are you going to quit?
Okay.
And I already knew the answer to that question, because I have a mission, a reason why I'm doing it. And there's a reason why I'm doing it for this particular age group, this particular audience. And the answer is, I'm not going to quit. So then if I'm not going to quit, then like, shut up and try a different thing.
So the mission keeps you on track on those days where things go wrong. And, you know, like, I love the story you just told, because, you know, like, now looking at where you are, we'll get to there eventually, but, you know, and how successful it's been and is still continuing to grow. Like, it hasn't even started really. But how easy would it have been? You've done the BookBub, all the things that people tell you will make the difference, and it didn't. How easy would it have been to have gone, maybe no one really likes this book, actually, you know, maybe it isn't.
Would have been really, really easy to do that. So there's like a couple things that helped me to not do that. One was like in-person feedback. When you are reading books with children, they tell you even when they don't tell you. Right. Yeah. So like, you know, right. Yeah. So having had so many opportunities to read on the radio, to read at events, and the launch events and stuff like that were good, not just for like photos, but also because it was an opportunity to be able to see live reactions of people who don't know me. Or kids who have no reason to not be antsy or whatever, to see how they react to the book. So then then that helped as well. Then also getting letters from some families, which at that time were many fewer, right? Also was very helpful. Like, it was encouraging. And I also feel like I would get them at exactly the right time. Like I would get them when I felt like really low, and then I would like check my email for something, and there would be like a piece of encouragement in there for me, which is also amazing. So the second book came out, which is like, it was, pretty much same deal. I think we gave away like another 100 copies of that book in print, 150 copies of that book in print, and ended up with like maybe 8 reviews. Like it was like ridiculous. But then here's what happened. We got the cover for the third book made right after the second book came out. And I set the first book to free because as a parent, I won't buy things for my children that I haven't read, and I won't buy things for my children that I haven't approved of. Now, I don't actually entirely limit them. They can check out whatever from the library, and they have Kindle Unlimited, so they can read whatever in Kindle Unlimited. Cool. Like, right. But like for me, shelling out additional cash, like I need to have read it myself and think that this is a good idea. So we set the book to free for that, so that parents could read the book without buying the book, like actually read it without buying it. And so I don't know which part of that worked,
right?
Free or the third book, because I tell you that when the third book went up for pre-order and the first book got set to like price match free, it started to take off from there. It was suddenly like it was a real thing. It was like and it felt more real to me, for whatever reason, to see there's some magic in the number 3 in the threes. So it felt more real to me too, and maybe that helped it as well. But it really started to take off, and it really started to take off. So there's somewhere in there. So somewhere around there, I had someone contact me and ask me if I wanted to be in like a magazine article. Like they were putting together a pitch for a magazine article about new successful children's book authors or whatever. And in their email to me, they were like, oh, well, I mean, of course you have. They're like, so with this, and this, and they're like, and you have 100 reviews, right? And I was like, ooh.
Didn't have the reviews yet.
I was like, no. I was like, I don't. I was like, I mean, like all total together, like if you put all the books together, all the reviews, then it's 100. Like, does that count? And she writes me back, oh, I'm rooting for you. She's like, how about I'll do like a second pitch about like authors that are about to break through.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh, new goal, get 100 reviews. But here's the thing, like, it is like really hard to get people to review your book. That's number 1. Yeah. Number 2, I started doing like begging of people to leave reviews, which is a terrible idea. A, because they're not going to leave you good reviews. Like they're going to leave you weird pat sounding reviews. And B, they're going to, if they download your book and they weren't really your audience, they're going to mess up your also bots. So then you're going to have all kinds of random junk. And like, and no offense to other authors who like love to support other authors, it's just, like can be super supportive when like authors do review swaps and stuff like that, or when they're like, oh, I read your books, but then if I actually like it, then I'll leave a review, or if I don't like it, then I'm still going to leave the review. So, blah, blah, blah. All of that is like above board because authors are allowed to read books too, but also like, dude, it messes up your also bots.
Yeah,
like,
it does. It really does, doesn't it? And it's like, hey, warning, we interrupt this show to bring you this special warning. Just because you're listening to Marti Dumas talk now, do not go look up her books. Do not click on the books. Do not. I'm warning you, because if someone did that for my new Hercules book, and the next day I looked and it's got also bought Joanna Penn's The Arcane series. I'm like, hold on. What is that?
Like,
that's not a children's book.
That's not right.
Who bought that? Who bought the book?
So it will totally jack up your also bots, but I didn't know all of this, and so then I was asking, and then so like I think I got to like maybe like 60 reviews, and then I saw that, and I could see that the Autobots were all kinds of like just weirdness, and I was like, oh, this is like, no, gotta stop this. So then I stopped doing that, and then I just let it slow burn. But here's the thing, that was like an accidental, I guess serendipity is always not on purpose, huh? But there was like a little bit, so I again don't know what I'm doing. I have a MailChimp list. The publishing company has its own MailChimp list, and are like better at it than I am. Like, I'm in charge of my own, right? So I accidentally changed the I made a new list when I shouldn't have made a new list. Now I know, but it works out in my favor. So I made a new list when we repubbed did an update of the Jade and Toussaint book.
Oh, Jade.
No, the first Jade and Toussaint book.
Gotcha.
Maybe a week after the BookBub feature deal, because we needed to change I needed to change the link in the back of the book to be for the second Jade and Toussaint book, and to put the picture of the third one in, because we had the cover, right? So I was like trying to whatever. And in doing that, I made a new list. But here's which is dumb. Like, there was no reason to have done that, except that happy accident, because what that means is that everybody who downloaded it as a result of the BookBub ad were on a separate list. So there were 3 people on that list.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
3 people on that list.
Yeah.
And now there are like 700 people on that list.
So how did where did the other?
Because they downloaded the old version of the book. So when they get to the back of the book, they are going into that old list. And so then what's happening is, I guess, and I mean, obviously I'm making this up, but like, I'm trying to put pieces together, but it seems like what's happening is that people didn't read it right away. They downloaded it. It was on a Kindle. They waited maybe for their kids to like pick it organically, or like they meant for it to get around to it. But like, as people are getting around to it, they're signing up, which is great. But that was like 2 years ago, right? So like, it's been like trickling over time. I still get, maybe 1 or 2 signups to that list every week, which is bizarre. But
wow, that's bizarre.
Right? Super long tail, but I don't know if they end up, whatever. Anyway, the other thing that happens too is that like, people go, like, they download the ebook and then they buy the print books, which I figured would happen, but it also makes it harder to track follow-on reading, right? Because like, the ebook numbers don't work that well for follow-on. So I kind of have started to look at it just from book 2. Like, if you download book 2 in the ebook, like, how many people who do that also, like 3, 4, and so on, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah, awesome. Okay, that's amazing. So like, now it's started to take off a little bit. And the first one, did you keep it free the whole time? And then the rest in Kindle Select, was that the strategy?
So they were, the first one was free, and the rest were in KDP Select. And that was not for any particular reason, except that it seemed like that was the place that there was the most sales. And so that there wasn't, but then again, happy accident.
You seem to have a lot of those, honey. I want some too.
I know.
Share your good fortune around.
I told you this was going to be a terrible interview. So
that's awesome.
They like, for a few, like for about a year, they were getting not the big so when you're in KDP Select, Amazon gives bonuses to like the top most read books in in the adult category. But then when they changed the formula, which I was never a part of the old formula, so I don't know the pain of the loss, but when they changed the formula, it really penalized children's books because they're shorter. So like, if you read the whole book, if you read the whole series, like it's just not that many pages, you know. So then they did a separate list for children's books. And so then we never got like the top one, which I can't remember I don't know how much money it is because I never got it, but we would get it was like there was like the top one, but then if you were in the top 10 or 15 or something like that, then you would get a smaller bonus, which is great because we like got the smaller bonuses for at least one of those books for almost a year, which was good.
Awesome.
But then when I was like, okay, when that stops, like we shouldn't leave them in here because I mean, obviously we're leaving them in here now because like not doing that is like leaving money on the table, right? But like after that stops, then we should go wide. And so we went wide in October with the books. But the borrows do help because they help with your visibility. But honestly, I don't know how many parents are actually shopping on the charts. So if you are high enough visibility that you end up with an orange tag, that's worth it. If you're not, I mean, it can help if you're the kind of person who's going to stalk those pages and screenshot them and send them to like post them on your social media, because it'll get people like to support things that are successful. And so then it'll give you a little bump. But when I like left that alone and just started letting it do its own thing with the review thing and with like with the downloads thing, it slowly eventually got to 100 reviews. But when I tell you that after it got to 100 reviews, it was like 200, 300. Like it just kept moving. Yes. So it's like slow climb to 100. And then after that, and I think that it's because of like, it's the same kind of social proof, right? It's like, I think it's probably psychological, where it's like, you don't want to stand out from the crowd having like this only review there. But then like, if there's a bunch of people who are doing it, it feels more like, oh, this is a thing we do. Right. So anyway, that's my theory for now, but it definitely was true for that first book. And none of the other ones, I don't think, have more than 100. Maybe the second one now has more than 100 reviews on it, but I'll let you know, like as that happens and the others claw their way to the light, then I'll let you know if that theory holds water on the rest of them.
Yeah, so the first one has 436 customer reviews. That's awesome. You like really got it up there. That's amazing. 98 for number 2. So you're
okay, so we're so close.
100.
We're so close. So then it'll be like close. A theory. We'll see how I'll respond back and let you know, like when that one crosses over, does it like all of a sudden start? But I'm totally jealous of like some of the like books that are coming out of big houses. Their reviews are combined. So like some of my comp books, like it's a series, like mine is a series, but you can tell because like the first 3 books in the series have the same weird number of reviews. Like each of them have 821. Really? Each of them separately have 821 exactly, like precisely? No. Like there's like a review sharing thing that's happening there, but I'm not mad at them. I want them to have it, but I want to figure out how we can get it.
yeah, exactly. And is it paperback heavy, the sales? Like, is it more paperbacks than ebooks?
Definitely.
But are ebooks still, doing okay? Like, okay enough that it's important whether you're wide or not wide? Like, has it made a difference to your numbers?
I think something might be on fire, literally. Hold on a second.
Oh, no, don't burn the house down. We are on pause as Marty checks for dinner. So that's all good. We don't want her to burn her house down. We'll just wait for her. Whilst I'm waiting, I will just have a little peek at Marty's page. But I will not click anything in case I warn her also bots. She's back. Are you there?
Sorry. Yeah. And there was an actual literal fire happening in my
You're
kitchen.
joking.
I'm not joking. I could see the smoke out of the corner of my eye. So I'm glad that I stopped and put that out. Sorry, y'all.
You burnt the kitchen down.
But I'm totally glad that I stopped and put that out.
How did you do that? How did you actually start a fire?
I know, that's impressive. Do you remember that I put dinner on right before we started this? Remember that? Okay.
Oh my goodness. So
all right.
So is there no dinner is what I want to know.
There's
is it burnt
no
now?
dinner. Like, we're going to now have to have pizza or some such.
Oh, God. Okay. Let's wrap this up so we can give Marty some time to cook, people. Okay. So I forgot what I was going to ask now. It completely left my brain, as it always does. Just in terms of going back to reviews for just a minute. So to hook them all up together, you don't know how to do that, huh? Like, it's not
No, I have
a
no
thing
idea.
that any of us
If
can
anybody
ask
knows,
for.
they should totally tell me.
Right. Tell us.
Yeah, tell us how to do that. And if you want to actually, I'm also not good at asking for things. So if you want to just like volunteer to like ask the people at Amazon to do the thing, that would also
Right.
that would also be
True.
great.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, that's yeah. Okay.
So what I was asking, I remember now, was like, since you've taken the books wide, has it made a difference to the ebook sales on like Amazon or anywhere else? Like, what's been the result?
So since the books have gone wide, it hasn't been that long. So like we're recording this a couple of days after, like a couple of days before the end of November, and they went wide like a couple of days before Halloween, so like maybe the 28th or 29th of October. So it has not been for very long, so maybe about a month. So I would say that pretty much no sales have happened. I mean, a few, like in the first few days. We used to have people who would comment all the time on our posts and be like, oh, I wish this was on iBooks or blah, 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 whatever. It's like, well, where are those people now? Cool. But
yeah, where are you now?
But
yeah, exactly.
I do think that I do know that we are actually making more money on ebooks on Amazon now, because we were not getting the bonus anymore, right? And also the page reads are not, the books are too short for the page reads to be anything. So it more than makes up in royalties
right.
for not having it in KU. So like it makes way more money on, like, it's probably triple or quadruple the amount of money that is being made from the ebooks. But I don't know that the actual volume of sales has gone up, because I don't know how many borrows there were in the first place. So then I can't really track that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, because I pulled mine wide, God, I'm trying to remember now, a bit earlier this year. And what I noticed was, and I don't know, it could be coincidence because of the time of the year, I don't know, but my paperback sales halved immediately. And the ads, the Amazon ads for the same book suddenly stopped working.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that's no coincidence. Now, don't forget, my book's not as, like high up as yours are, like mine are Little Fish, like in the sense that they haven't really gone to that, level of downloads. But and so then I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Do I put them back in? Do I not put them back in? I mean, I've taken all that trouble to put them wide. Do I just hang out wide? Like, I'm not sure. I'm sort of sitting on the fence.
I'm not sure either. I know that I wasn't making a tremendous amount of money from them in KU, so it's not really that much of a loss to the company, particularly since now it's actually technically making more money in KU. Wait, hold on. What am I saying? Yeah, Kindle. No. It's
Kindle
making more
Unlimited.
money, and it's making more money on Kindle than it made while it was in Kindle Unlimited. So
exactly.
So then that's not a loss for us, right? Like that's net positive, even if it's not at this time, it's net positive, even if it's not selling in the other places. I will say though that it might be a category thing, right? Like an age category thing, because Jupiter Storm is for slightly older kids, and it so I just looked, before we got on the air, we were trying to figure out something, and I opened up Draft to Digital, and so I could see my dashboard there, and I can see that the number of people who've downloaded the free version of Jade and Toussaint this month is like only like wait, hold on, now I can't remember because I'm just seeing the visual. Never mind. So let's use hypothetical numbers. These are not the real numbers, right? So let's say because it's like 3 times as many people have downloaded Jupiter, who have bought Jupiter Storm, than have downloaded the free version of Jade and Toussaint the Greatest on Draft to Digital, which means that like through all the non-Amazon channels, because we've been using Draft to Digital and not going direct. I told you we don't know what we're doing for all the other ones. So that's interesting to me because why? Like I don't 100% know why, but it is it's for older kids. It's maybe fantasy does better. I don't know. I don't know what the thing is.
There is some, I've heard like in Facebook groups talk of I think they were fantasy for older kids, and most authors were agreeing Kindle Select just didn't work for them, didn't get as much as they thought they would. Like you said, Kindle, like kids who have, Kindle Unlimited and can read anything, didn't seem to read it as much as they thought. As soon as they went wide, it did better, like especially middle grade. So I don't know. Again, I haven't launched a middle grade, so I don't know.
Right.
That's what I've seen spoken about in Facebook groups.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense to actually just test it, and see, right, which takes time. And also, like, I remember really easily when those books were first just on Amazon, they also had like trickle, no sale, trickle.
Right.
Or like, it was like where somebody would be like, oh, I bought your book today, I got the Kindle version. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you for saying that. I guess you were trying to lift my spirit, but like, I can see that you didn't.
Yeah, that's funny.
I can't do that anymore, but it's, anyway. So, but it's like that. It would be like that, right? Like, so yeah. Exactly. Anyway, I'm optimistic, and I just kind of want to see how it's gonna go. And then also, we haven't done any like advertisement or anything like that directing people away from Amazon, right? So we have that on our big list of things to explore, but it hasn't actually come up yet. So it's not fair. Like, there hasn't been enough time for organic traffic to build, and we also haven't directed traffic. So
so is Facebook advertising still a main way of driving? Because you get a lot of libraries and bookstores, and don't you? Like, I suppose what I'm impressed with your strategy is, so far a lot of the authors we've spoken to have had like a face-to-face strategy, which has really worked in the children's book area, which is fabulous. But am I bold enough to say that your success has come mostly online, which is kind of rare in terms of who we've spoken to anyway. It's rare. Do you think Facebook's made a difference to that?
I do. And I think the 3 books made a difference. It made it look like a real thing that was worth pausing to take a look at. And then the second thing is that after you've paused to take a look at it, like, there are more than just like readers and parents on Facebook. Like, librarians are on Facebook. Like, everybody's on Facebook. Like, bookstore owners are on Facebook. So this is what I was going to tell you, because you were talking about this thing before I set the dinner on fire, is that like, pretty much every bookstore that carries our books, like, now we have more help, right? So I don't want to downplay the business, because it's growing, right? So now we have more help. Now we can hire assistants. Now we have like people who we've always had people who worked with us like on a contract basis, right? Like illustrators who work on contract, or but it's like, do your thing, we pay you, you go away, right? So but now we're starting to have people that we like pay like who are essentially on salary, although we didn't exactly set up the financials like that, but where it's like a consistent thing, right? So now we have more help. So now we are like getting ready to launch like a direct to bookstore strategy and a direct to library strategy. So I'm not saying that we're always going to be that way. However, in the beginning, and like seriously up till now, if the person has heard of it, it is probably because they saw it online or somebody told them about it who saw it online.
Yeah.
And so then like all the bookstores that were stocked in, like we didn't have like in the beginning, we didn't have a strong strategy of calling bookstores and building individual relationships with. We have relationships with lots of bookstores now, and the bookstores were kind enough to have reached out to us, right? And they started the relationship, which is crazy because they saw it kind of happening. And again, like I think that people are excited to support things when they're doing like okay, it's like that.
Yes.
So then like I think that doesn't hurt, but there were definitely ones that helped us beforehand. And I actually hope we can have her on the show at some point. I'll see. She's great. She'd be a great interview. But the owner of another local bookshop, one time, I think I've told you the story before, where I went in there and she had one of my books, but you could see it, like it was face out, right? And but I went in there to shop because it's a bookstore in my neighborhood, and so I was like being like, how have I never been in this bookstore before? And I went in to shop or whatever. And so I bought the books and I was like, okay, funny story, you have one of my books. And she's like, I have one of your books? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you do? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God, that's your book? She's like, you have the worst marketing team ever. I was like, I do. I do. She's like, the only reason I know about that book is because several people came in here to request it, and we ordered it on the back of that, and blah blah blah. She's like, I can't, So, but anyway, I think that's probably mostly what's happened, right? Is that we do love bookstores, and so then on our small press page, like we're always talking about bookstores because we do love them, so then they have sort of like reciprocated, like in stocking the book.
Yeah. Okay. Am I the timekeeper today? We're probably running out of time.
Timekeeper, because we're definitely running out of time.
We're running out of time. I have 2 more questions.
Also says the burnt dinner. Says that too.
Because you've got to go hunt down a restaurant or something in the freezer. Or sandwiches or something like that.
We'll be like,
thank you very much. Peanut butter spoon. So with Facebook, like I remember like Austin that we interviewed, and we haven't talked about his interview yet. We're going to do that in the next fortnight. But he found success sort of selling his box set. Like, what do you mainly advertise on Facebook? Is it the free one?
I literally only advertise the free books. We only advertise the free books. And here's the thinking, like, we don't want people to buy the books for the sake of.
Right.
If it's not for you, then don't get it. Right. It's okay, right? Like there's plenty of space in the universe, there's plenty of room for all of us. So advertising the free book, then go ahead and get it, check it out. If you like it, then buy the rest of them, and it's cool. So we only do that. I'm a little bit afraid of the box set strategy, because people do ask us about box sets for Jade and Toussaint, but they're not talking about ebook box sets. They're talking about like actual boxed sets, which brings a whole new level of print production for us, that I don't know that we are prepared yet to like put that kind of risk in, for what might be like maybe the like 7 to 12 people who've like written us asking about box sets, maybe they are representative of 1,000 people each, or maybe they are only representative of themselves. So that's
exactly.
That's a lot of risk.
Yeah, on the maybe. Okay, no, that's great information. And so with the actual paperbacks, am I allowed to ask roughly how many have you sold?
Oh, it'll have to be roughly because I haven't checked.
Of course. Give me a rough figure just so we can knock people out of their chairs.
I'm not going to knock anybody out of their chairs.
Come on, give it to me.
So I think we're at 50,000.
Fabulous. Because it gives it, like we could, like you say all the time when you ask people, are we talking about 20 books here? When I go, I did really well this week. And you're like, how many did you sell, Elena? And I'm like, 5.
Do I do that to you?
Because you're like, love your numbers. And then I'm like, I felt good about selling 5 until you asked me.
Wait, no, the thing is, if you go from 1 to 5, then you've had a 400% increase. Do you know what people would kill for a 400% increase? That's really great. So yeah, I don't know now. I don't know the exact number now, but I will know the exact number. I know that I checked, and I can be really obsessive about checking, and it stops me from doing other things, like checking and fiddling with stats and trying to figure stuff out. So I'm trying to limit myself now to only being able to fiddle with stats on Thursdays. I know that the last time I checked that we were on pace to be able to meet our print target, which for this year, which was 20% individual growth for each of the books. And that's awesome. Like, actually, I think we've already met that for all of them. So then I just need to figure out what, for the year, but like we've already met it. So then I just need to, we'll see what it actually ends up being in the end.
No, that's brilliant. I remember being in a little Google Hangouts with other authors, and everyone's like, yes, what are you guys doing for marketing? And, how's it going? And, I sold 10 books. And then we're like, so how many have you sold, Marti? And I remember at the time you were like, 14,000, and everyone almost fell out of their chairs because it was like, how did you do that? Like,
okay. So, but also I know that I'm not doing the best at this. There are people who are out there doing it, and we are just wanting to know their knowledge. And we were just talking to somebody last week who was really killing it in that. And then B, where do we want to be?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, gosh, we could be having this conversation, and it's like you just said,
let me tell you that Michael Anderle would pat me on the head.
Right.
Oh, adorable little thing. Did you think you did?
Of course. But I suppose for me, what stands out and why I feel honoured to have that you let me interview you is that it's you're an indie author. That's your second book. I know Michael Anderle did it on his first and whatever, but you're in the kids market, which is a little bit more difficult, and you did it online, which stands out for me, and not necessarily with the middle grade, which middle grade to me is like a novel. So middle grade can appeal to, like Austin was saying, older women and, women. So the reader might be not necessarily the child. And the conversation we always have in groups and everywhere is, there's gatekeepers and it's hard to reach them. And, we've had fantastic examples, like where Darcy, makes great sales, huge sales through schools. But technically we haven't interviewed anybody, in my opinion, which is why I wanted to interview you deep down, who has had that success. 50,000, that's brilliant, right? In such a short period of time online with a book that's technically, I know the parents still have to gatekeep it, but is getting to the kids. That for me is what stands out. There are 50,000 children out there who have got your paperback and are reading it in their hot little hands. That for me is it's possible. So that's why I wanted you on the show as not the co-host, but, to interview you and let other people know you can do this, it's amazing because you've done it. And yes, you're definitely going to sell 1 million, you know, like in another couple of years. You'll be like, Elena, I'm leaving the show, babes, you know.
Aim high, right?
Yeah.
Totally $1 million.
There's no one else I want to interview. I know everything now. Thank you very much. You know, so well done. So my final question is, and I feel it's an important question, even though it's getting a little bit back to the nitty gritty, but is price. You know, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you price your books at a very like cheap. Like, I don't mean cheap, but
No,
that's the
cheap.
wrong word.
No. Cheap is the right word. So
okay, I didn't want to insinuate you were cheap, Marti. That's all.
So no, that's definitely the right word. So again, it's like goes back to that mission thing, right? So like, what's our mission? Like, our mission actually has not been to get rich, although we should probably figure that out, right? But like, our mission hasn't been to get rich. It has been to get the books in the hands of readers. And so our margins are razor thin on bookstore sales, like razor thin on bookstore sales, but having them available in bookstores is more worth it to us because it supports our mission, right? So then for us, that's the thing. Like, if you from the SPP guys, where it's like, know your why, you know, it's like, why are you doing it? If you're doing it to make the biggest possible margin, then you would do something a little bit different. So we try to make sure that all of our books are priced competitively with the market. The bookstore owners tell us that they are, and that they are grateful for it, and that it makes it easier for people to make the decision to buy when they're at the counter, because it's just like all the other books that are in their stacks. And then also it makes it, we're not like, if a lot of the people that we're trying to make sure can get a handle on, get their hands on these books for their kids, if they are not priced competitively, then I think it's not fair.
Right.
Because I think it's not fair. So so those books are priced competitively. They always will be. They always will be. So
yeah, and I think that's a, you know, important part of your strategy to mention, you know, like, because you're essentially competing with the big publishing houses in a sense, you know, like you said, you're priced competitively, and sometimes print on demand books aren't priced competitively, and that's why they'll never end up in bookstores. It's as simple as that. Sometimes that's the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I do. And there are times like when print runs are important, coming up to festivals, or like at holiday time, Amazon might send you a thing that says, we need a stock of your books. So either send us the books, or we're gonna buy a bunch through CreateSpace, right? Like, you have to, you know, like, then you need to like look and see, okay, is this enough? Like, do we do that? And but being so tiny, like, we can do that. Like, we can make the decision and make sure that we can, again, keep the costs reasonable.
Cool.
Like, they're reasonable.
Yeah. Well, you've been an awesome guest. I hope you've enjoyed being in the firing line for a change.
It honestly just feels like a regular conversation with you, so I don't know what that says about our relationship. I think that's good or bad.
And just to, you know, bore the listeners, you get us again in a fortnight talking about goals and goal setting.
This time we will not be talking about me, though. We'll be talking about the other people, so that's good.
Yeah, but thank you so much. I've learned heaps from you. I bet other people have too. And it's been fabulous. You're so open and giving and sharing. And, you know, I wish you every success. It's wonderful. At least, you know, by the time I die, I'll say, like, I published 50 books, and one of my great friends is one of the most famous authors. Do you like that? At least
I'll be able to say the same.
It's all good. And it's fabulous, you know, celebrating each other. That's what it's all about. And I know we all want it for ourselves, but it's that thing of when you give gratitude for what you have so far and see other people making it. And it to me, it makes the whole being in the business worthwhile. You know, the readers, as you say, it's all about getting to those readers. That's why we do it. So great reminder. I'm not going to ask you to tell people where they can find you online because we don't want them to ruin your also boards. So no, better luck, can't look her up.
Also, I have a thing I absolutely hate for people that I know to buy my books, and it's like I think that I have this like thing stuck in my head from like it's a closed system, so like I can't make a living on the people that I know, but I don't know enough people, so I can't make a living on the people that I know buying my books, and so then it makes me feel guilty. And also I don't ever want people to be like, oh God, Marti again, she's gonna ask me to buy her book.
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
I don't want that either. So so also that, you guys, also
that. And Crystal said it so well, didn't she, in her interview, where she's like, they're not your target market, quit it. You know, like they're it's like when authors get into Facebook groups and, you know, put their book up, you know, buy my book, blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, like why even do that? No one's going to click it. No one's going to say like, you know, like it's sort of, I don't know, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Just go find your readers is at the end of the day. And I love that. For me, out of your interview, you know, the bit that really popped the most, apart from all your other fantastic, was, you know, about your target market. It was like, know your target market and go out there and find them, you know, like keep persisting till you do. So well done. You can find us at www.indiekidlitpodcast.com. We will see you in a fortnight for our goal setting session. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and listening to us. We would love it if you could leave a review. It's always very helpful. Thank you for sticking with us. It's almost been a year.
So exciting. This has been so much fun. All right. I'll see y'all soon.